All right, tonight's topic is solar power in the wintertime. Is it any good? Does it work? So the inspiration here is today. So obviously I'm based in the northeastern U.S. in the state of Pennsylvania, of course, and we have a very good four-season climate. All right. So we have hot summers, humid summers, and we have winters that are pretty cold, but they're not that bad. Okay, we're not talking about Canada and Alaska level winters here, but it gets cold. Obviously, water freezes, and you get stuff like this. So this picture, it might be hard to see my TV. This is a new thing I'm doing here, but got this picture on the TV, and there's piles of snow on the street, and the cars are all blocked in. This is what you call an urban wintertime mess. And this, I believe, was taken in 2013 when we had a very, very harsh winter up here. And people, when it gets cold like this, we've had single-digit Fahrenheit for the past 2 weeks and at night, and people got winter on their mind. January, it's winter time, right? And today on the news, on the local news station, WNEP TV, they had an article posted out to social media, aka Facebook, where there was a proposal for a solar farm, utility scale facility, in the Poconos, so Poconos region of Pennsylvania. Mountainous, Appalachian, hilly area, wooded, and this developer wanted to come in and start leasing land to build a few megawatt solar facility. So we're talking a few dozen acres maybe. Solar runs in this area. It's about 5 acres per megawatt of solar when you're dealing with ground mount utility systems, utility scale systems. So Facebook, of course, being the somewhat of a cesspool that it is when it comes to people's opinions, I decide, as somebody who wants to have an idea of what people's feelings are about renewable energy technologies, read the comments. Ooh, you definitely have to have a little bit of a tough, a little bit of a skin for reading these comments on these sites. So, one of the biggest problems that people seem to believe about solar power is, what about wintertime? What about when it snows? What about when the skies are gray? Oh my God, this guy wants to come in here and cut down trees and build a solar farm whenever we only have 4 weeks of sunshine an entire year. I'm literally paraphrasing a comment from Facebook. I will just say right now that the majority of the comments to that particular article about the solar farm were very, very negative. I would have expected that kind of negativity from a fracking operation or a nuclear power plant based on the historical animosity towards those two things. But you wouldn't think solar energy would draw such ire, right? All I got to say is solar, fracking, and nuclear power, and wind turbines are definitely all in in it together when it comes to people's bad feelings. So I'm going to try to kind of go over hold on a second here. It's not what you think, and it's solar works just fine in the wintertime. All right, so wintertime. It's cold, it's icy, there's snow, it's gray sky, whatever. So here we go. Oh my God, it's so gray here, overcast, it's so cloudy. And then you get, why even bother? What a joke. This is such a joke. It's a scam. It's such a waste. Really? Is it? So some person, some entity is going to come here to the Poconos, and they're going to spend, they are going to spend millions of dollars to build this solar farm. They're going to lease land from people in order to put the solar panels there and generate electricity. Okay, that's a scam? What kind of business owner goes to a bank and says, yeah, I'm going to take out a loan for $5 million to build this 3 megawatt solar farm. And, is it going to work or is it not going to work? The bank is going to ask that question, and they better damn well know that it's going to work. So, the fact of the matter is, the solar energy is very predictable, and it's very much a low-risk investment. So if you put up a solar farm, you are effectively guaranteed that it's going to perform to expectations. The only way that it would not perform to expectations is if it weren't installed properly, or if some kind of catastrophe like an earthquake or a hurricane or something came in and damaged it. So, the thing with wintertime and the snow and solar is their mind immediately goes to this. All right, so here we have a active snowstorm. This is from Wilkes-Barre in northeast Pennsylvania. So there's a snowstorm going on in this picture. I took this picture about 12 years ago. And there's a few things to note here. So, first of all, what percentage of time out of 1 year are the conditions actually like this? And the answer to that is less than 1%. Okay? Conditions like this do not exist for a very large fraction of the hours in a year. And you got to realize that 1% of a year is about 90 hours. It's very rare to have 90 hours of whiteout conditions like this in 1 year. Okay, so that's one thing it's going for you. Even though there's not a whole lot of sunlight here, these conditions don't exist for very much of the year. Second issue, this is a photograph. I'm trying to be a smart ass about saying that. Photograph. Photograph means an image of light. So that means that light has to be present to get the picture, to get the photograph. So the fact is that there was enough light here to take a photograph. There was enough light for me to walk down to the park to take the picture. There's also enough light to generate electricity with a solar panel. In a condition like this, you can expect that a solar panel is still going to produce power, just not that much. Right? So, just because it snows doesn't mean that solar doesn't work. Because then, the day after it snows, it looks like this. Alright, so this picture was also taken somewhere nearby. And you can see there's not a cloud in the sky. Now this was probably evening, I'm going to guess, when I was out taking this, because that's kind of off to the west. I believe the river is down here, so that's off to the west. And the interesting thing about this scenario is now the ground is covered in this white substance. Very reflective white material. Snow, right? And when you have a field of solar panels, okay, they're mounted on an angle. They're usually mounted about 35 to 40 degrees based upon wherever the facility is. So around here, our latitude position on the horizontal position on the Earth is 41 degrees north. So the panels are mounted either at 41 degrees or slightly below. Usually they're like 35 or 38, something like that. And when you get snow on glass mounted at 35 degrees, the snow tends to slide right off. It doesn't stick. So I have solar on my roof right above my head up here. If you go up about 8 feet above us through the roof sheathing, you'll hit solar panels. And that roof is 38 degrees slope. And when I get snow, the snow within hours it doesn't even ever accumulate more than an inch or so. It slides right off. It just slides right off the roof. And then you get some sun like this comes out, and that solar panel being black, it absorbs a lot of energy. obviously the idea of a solar panel is to absorb energy. About 20% of that energy is converted to electricity that goes through the wiring and into the building. The other 80% just heats up the solar panel and melts any ice off, and you're clean and you're making juice. And because the ground is covered in white reflective substance, there's energy that bounces off the ground and comes back up. And whenever it does that, it goes in random directions. And that can actually increase the productivity of a solar farm, especially if the panels are near the ground. So you build one of these solar farms, you put your solar panels up on the ground, snows, sunlight's bouncing off the snow, and it's actually helping increase the power output of the system. And nowadays, in the past, I'd say, year or so, a popular product has been what they call bifacial solar panels. So, a bifacial solar panel. So right here, this is a small traditional solar panel. And obviously this is the active side where you point it towards the sun. And then on the back, there's this plastic, they call it a back sheet. Well, a bifacial solar panel is, instead of having a back sheet, it's clear on the back. And light can either go through the top or go through the back, and both surfaces are active generation. So you can generate power by light hitting the back of the module in addition to the front. So it's effectively two solar panels in one. And if you have a ground mount system with snow and sunlight's hitting that snow and bouncing into the back of this module, you're actually generating more electricity with snow. And that effect, based on the way that snowstorms are, that's going to null out the days and the times of the year where you have conditions that look like that. So, you know, a lot of people say, okay, it works in the wintertime. But the days are so dreary, and how do, you know, this stuff would never work, you know. How could you ever power a house and power the electric grid with solar when we have, you know, 5 days at a time where it's gray? Oh my God! Well, there's a couple of reasons why it isn't as bad as it sounds. So the chart here shows you U.S. electric power sector generation by fuel from 2015 till now. And it might be hard to see in the video, but basically what it's showing you is most of the electricity generation, actually I'd say the largest source of electricity generation in the U.S. is from natural gas. And it's about, that's like 37% or something like that. Maybe 40, I don't know. 40, it's the highest. That's the biggest source. Then you got coal and nuclear, which are kind of head to head. And then you have all the different renewables, which when added up is the same as coal and nuclear. So solar started basically down here with about nothing in 2015. It's almost zero. There's very little. And now we're generating about 3% or 4%, something between those, of all the electricity in the U.S. comes from solar. And that's averaged over a year. So if you have solar in any given location, obviously it's going to produce more in the summertime than it does in the wintertime. And you know, people get very concerned over the difference between summertime production and wintertime production, or a sunny day production and an overcast day production. And there's this animosity about, well, if it varies that much, why should we shouldn't even use it? It's no good. We shouldn't even use it. And well, okay. So I'm looking at this chart right here, and I see that the solar is a nice, like, up and down, sinusoidal curve. And it's pretty subdued, you know. It's not really that crazy. But then I look at the natural gas, and I look at the coal, and even the nuclear. You know, everybody always talks about nuclear. Oh, it's steady 24/7 energy. You know, right? It's just, you know, just powers through everything. Well, the fact of the matter is they got to shut those plants down to do maintenance. And every year, nuclear power plants are going offline for refueling and maintenance. And you can see the variation on an annual basis. And it's far more dramatic of a swing than the solar is. Okay? And that's a completely man-made, manufactured variation. And then the natural gas spikes up in the summertime because of air conditioning demand. So the generation from gas goes, it swings around almost a factor of 2x. That's far more than solar does. I mean, here where I'm at, solar in the wintertime, I might make it might be 2x. But if you go out west to the desert areas, it's not a 2x change. It's probably more like a 25 or 50% change. So the whole idea that a variable energy source cannot be incorporated into the power grid is a complete myth, because every single one of these energy sources is obviously variable. All right? I don't care whether it's nuclear or whether it's solar or it's wind or it's natural gas. They all vary either for artificial or natural reasons. So, I mentioned before that solar is currently providing about 4% of the U.S. grid's electricity in a year. So what that means is that there's an immense headroom to grow. And so like here in the Northeast and in a lot of places, with the possible exception of California, the power grid can absorb all that solar very easily. So they don't need energy storage. Energy storage is not a necessary feature for solar power when you're connected to a power grid. All right? If you're living in a cabin out in the woods by yourself with no power grid, then yes, you need energy storage. But whenever you're connected to the regional power grid and you're getting electricity from all of these different fuel sources, and they are all able to work together, you don't need energy storage. So when solar is producing on a day like this, where it's very sunny, the natural gas-fired power plants don't have to work as hard. So they can throttle their gas turbines back. They don't have to burn as much fuel. It saves people a lot of money because that natural gas is expensive. I mean, to run those plants, 75-80% of the cost of running a gas-fired power plant is just purchasing the gas that you need to fire the plant. When you got solar, you don't need to burn the fuel. Okay, it saves everybody money. You don't have to buy gas. Right? When you got a nice day like that, saves you money. Everybody who's invested in solar bought their panels. They're already paid for. They're already here. These need to get put outside so they can participate. But they're here and they are offsetting the use of gas. And then on a nasty day, like an active snowstorm, your solar panels aren't going to be making much. So then the gas-fired plants have to burn more fuel. It's not a big deal. They fire up more fuel and you pay for more fuel. That's all it is. And the grid runs just the same. So, the other wintertime thing, like I said before, is if the stuff really didn't work in the wintertime, nobody would be building it. All right? So I have solar up on my roof. I've had it for almost over 4 years now. And it works just fine in the winter. So I'll show you after here how it performs throughout an entire year. Actually, through the past 4 years. So just to get an idea of the amount of investment that's going into renewable energy, particularly solar. This chart, this yellow pie slice here, this is planned, not projected, utility scale electric generating capacity additions in 2022 in the United States. So, solar is going to be 21 gigawatts of new solar added to the United States power grid in 2022. And 21.5 gigawatts of raw capacity. So that means, so this solar panel is rated at 20 watts. So that means 21.5 gigawatts nameplate capacity. The average capacity factor of solar, because it gets dark at night, because you have snowy days, because there's clouds, because the climates are different, comes out to like 20 to 25%. So take your 20 gigawatts, divide it by, let's just be conservative and divide it by 5 and get 4 gigawatts. So that's the equivalent of twice of the nuclear that's being added. Now, the nuclear is an interesting story because that is the Plant Vogtle reactors in Georgia that have been under construction since 2012, and they cost $27 billion to construct. All right? So it's taken 2012, that's 10 years. It's taken 10 years to build 2.2 gigawatts of nuclear, and it's taken $27 billion. And in 1 year, we're going to add double that in solar in terms of energy production. That includes the fact that it gets dark at night. All right, I'm not going to let that slide. So, natural gas, we're putting in 9.6 gigawatts of gas. I think that's up from last year. And also 7.6 gigs of wind, which is down from last year. So, you can see right here, December is when they tend to, everybody kind of pushes their projects out till December just because it's, you know, the end of the year. So the nukes are supposed to come online in June, unit, and then November, another unit. There's no coal on here. Oh yeah, I forgot. 5.1 gigawatts of batteries. So battery is basically firm capacity. A battery produces on demand. When you call up the battery, they got a charge in them, and they can give you megawatts instantly. Twice as much battery's capacity as nuclear. Now obviously a battery is not a net generator, but it absorbs energy on good days. So when you got days like this, the batteries are charging. When you got days like that, the batteries are discharging from, you know, using very cheap renewable energy from the solar and the wind. Avoiding having to burn fuel, primarily natural gas. So the other thing is, well, with Pennsylvania, it's so dreary and so dim around here. Solar will never work. Oh my God. Oh, and all the arguments. Okay. So in the United States in 2020, this is 20. Where is the solar power? Where are the solar power plants at? So the states with the red are higher production of solar in utility scale, large scale, multi-acre solar farms. California, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Florida, and North Carolina are all above 5 terawatt hours per year. So a terawatt hour per year, this is up into the scale of like a mid-sized coal-fired power plant, 1 terawatt hour, like a couple 100 megawatt plant. So California, you're generating massive, huge amounts of solar power out there. Arizona and the other states, they're all a little bit lower, but they're still pretty high. And then we got the guys like New York, Massachusetts, oh man, New Jersey, Virginia, Minnesota. Holy shit, man, Minnesota, Oregon. Wait a minute, how in the hell? So if Pennsylvania is no good for solar, how on earth is Massachusetts, New York, Minnesota, and Oregon good for solar? All right? They're all generating more utility scale solar than Pennsylvania is. So everybody's complaining about this Pocono solar farm. Oh, it won't ever work. It'll never make sense. But yet Oregon in rainy old Pacific Northwest, Minnesota, everybody loves the snow up there, right? New York, which is basically the same as here. Massachusetts, New England's finest, New Jersey and Virginia are all able to do it. Okay, that's really weird, right? Oh, Maryland even. Maryland is even above us in the list of utility scale solar. Okay, so next we got small scale solar. So that's guys like this, like my system up here, my 4 and change kilowatt solar plant on this roof. So California, of course, is still the top dog. Arizona, New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey. Really? So, I understand. Yes, you guys have a lot of sun in California and Arizona. It makes total sense. But Massachusetts is able to make somewhere between 2 and 10 terawatt hours per year from small scale solar panels on people's houses and buildings. Okay, interesting. New York and New Jersey are doing the same thing. Pennsylvania's doing pretty good. I mean, but we're still, Maryland is even still higher than we are here. We're kind of, as in every single metric and ranking of U.S. states, PA is always average. Okay, it's the most average place there is in America. I'm just going to put my observation out there. Mediocrity is a strong point. And there's not anything wrong with that. It's just the way it is. Right in the middle of the pack. So, it looks like Texas, it's hard to see the variation in color between the 0.1 to 0.9, and that's actually an order of magnitude difference, so it's important. I think Texas is in the 1.0 to 1.9 TWH category, and PA is here with this blob of Minnesota and Georgia and these guys here in the 0.1 to 0.9 TWH category. I know that the small scale solar in Pennsylvania is a couple hundred megawatts of capacity, so it's good. It's not bad, but people are saying, oh, it doesn't work. That's just not true. Okay, this is hard evidence data that it does in fact work. All right, so if you put solar panels up in the Poconos or wherever, how much electricity can you expect to generate? So, this map, I purposely put the entire world on here because it's important to compare this with a lot of the early adopters of renewable energy. I'm going to talk about Germany. Okay, Germany is well known as one of the very early adopters that decided this is what we're going to do. Okay, they didn't wait for the market to get ready for it. They didn't wait for entrepreneurs to start up a business. They said, we are doing this. Okay, we are going to spend the money and we are going to make this happen. And where is Germany located? It is right here. Okay, color of Germany on this map is green. In the green, you are producing about 2.9 kilowatt hours per square meter, or actually no, kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak. So what that means is that over the course of 1 year, 1 kilowatt of solar panels okay, let me just make sure this math is right because this can get confusing. Is this per day? It's daily total. So they have daily totals and yearly totals. So what this means is that over a 1 day average, 1 kilowatt of solar panels will produce about 2.9 kilowatt hours of electricity in Germany, averaged over a year, or about 1,000 kilowatt hours total for the year per kilowatt peak of solar panels. I know it gets a little confusing. But basically, Germany's green. Green is low. It's down in the early part of this chart. The only people who are lower than that's like Alaska and certain places like that are very low on sun. But Europe means Scotland and the UK. You want to talk about not sunny. People will complain about not sunny around here. Go to Scotland in the UK or Ireland. They're purple. Okay, they're all the way at the beginning of the scale at 730 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak per year. It's pretty low. Whereas here in Northeast PA, we're somewhere around, oh, I don't know, like 3.5, 3.6, depending on where where you're at. Like down in like Lehigh Valley, it's slightly higher, but up here, we're probably in like 3.5, 3.2 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak per day, or 1,200 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak per year. We are higher, much higher than Germany. But obviously, if you go to SoCal or you go to Arizona, you are drastically higher. All right. So when people say, "Well, there's just not enough sun here," they're comparing it to areas that are just absolutely blazing sunny, like so incredibly sunny that they're almost off the charts on this scale here. So this is the sunniest areas of the world are down here in Chile. So look at that, 6.4 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak per day in this, that's the Atacama Desert in Chile. And that's almost twice what we get here. Actually, it is twice. It's almost exactly twice. But the Middle East, of course, is very sunny. Australia is very sunny. Africa, the entire continent of Africa is an absolute gold mine for solar energy. Even in sub-Saharan Africa, it's still like it's really the same as we have here in this middle part. Russia and Europe are dreary by comparison, but yet Europe was the earliest adopter and the biggest driver of the renewable energy transition, especially solar and wind. Well, wind too. I'd say they're more on wind than solar. But Germany, early 2000s was like, we are going to do solar. We are going to make it happen. We are not going to wait. We're doing it now. And thanks to their investments and their subsidies that they put on this technology, we have the ability to enjoy it and not have to subsidize it. Okay? So, solar installations, like this big solar farm proposed for the Poconos, the only thing they get is a tax credit. So a tax credit is not a subsidy. The tax credit basically requires that you make money. Okay? If you don't make money, you don't have to pay taxes. All right? So it's like if you work at a job, if you don't make any money at your job, you don't have to pay income taxes. Solar tax credit requires that you have taxable income to apply the credit to. If you don't have taxable income, you can't apply the credit. So you have to have a working system, and the government says, all right, well, we want you to build solar power, so what we're going to do is 26% of the cost, so let's just say it was $1 million to build a solar system, 26% of that is $260,000. You get to deduct $260,000 from your taxes. Okay, that's how we're incentivizing it. We're not handing out money. We're just saying you don't have to pay as many taxes. Okay, tax breaks. Doesn't everybody like tax breaks? That's all it is. So, that's my long, very involved, and passionate speech about solar power in the wintertime. So, obviously, it still works in the wintertime. So a fact about solar power. So I got this big ass picture here of a solar farm, multi-acre facility. And I think that one's from Texas. I think it's actually a Texas solar farm. Nice and flat there, right? So in the United States, if I take the solar panels, set them up, point them at the sun, point it south like I am right now, point it at the sun, and let it there and generate electricity. Over the working life of that solar farm, which is 25 years, this is standard working life of a solar farm. These don't really have a definite life, but the manufacturers basically say it's 25 years, and that's the number that we use. So over 25 years, the solar farm is running. Every single year that it's there, you could take the cross-sectional area of this solar panel, lay it on the ground, and virtually in your mind create a seam of coal below the solar panel. So every year, if I was to put this in the sun and generate power, every year I would grow somewhere between 6 and 12 inches of coal virtually underneath the panel. Over 25 years, I could have 11, 12, 15, 20 feet of virtual coal. And what I mean by that is the electricity this thing produced is equivalent to that volume of coal. And I'm using an average coal like a 10,000 BTU per pound, coal for that calculation. It's pretty amazing, right? So this thing is like an inch thick. And obviously I could scale this up to a large module that you would see in a solar farm like this. And underneath it, you're growing feet, like thick, equivalent of coal that is effectively not having to be mined to generate the same amount of electricity, of kilowatt hours. Okay, that's an incredibly powerful idea, and I don't think that it is appreciated when people promote solar energy. Okay, everybody talks about, oh, it's going to take up land. Oh, they're taking down trees to build this. Oh, it's going to be ugly. I don't want to look at it. Oh my God, what's the alternative? All right, there's a lot of alternatives. Okay, there's a lot of things you can use, but in the United States, the alternative has traditionally been coal and natural gas. And by doing this, it's this panel, this many square feet, down 11 feet, cubic feet of coal that you don't have to use. Pretty crazy. It's pretty impressive, right? So that's that. Something that may be of, let's see if we can move this over. Something that's very interesting here. So this here is my, I use an N-phase inverter system. That's a microinverter based solar system. And it provides very detailed data of what your solar panels are doing. But this right here is a graph of the lifetime production of the system, energy in watt hours, kilowatt hours. So as it humps up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, that is the change between summertime, summer, and then winter is down here. So right now, we've had a very good streak of very sunny but cold days. And over here, there is a spike up because solar panels work better when it's cold. Okay, so the silicon has, they call negative temperature coefficient. So the colder it gets, the higher the voltage gets on the solar panel. And voltage multiplies with current to make watts. So current, or amps, is dependent upon how much light is hitting the module, hitting the solar cell. Voltage is dependent upon the temperature of the solar cell. Multiply them together, you get watts. So we've had days here, and back in the past couple weeks, where we've made 14 kilowatt hours of electricity. I mean, this is competitive with, like winter, like summer days. You have a very hot summer day. Like here on September 15th, we only made 13.2 kilowatt hours. Now we're making 14. If I can get it to stay still, but we're making like 14 now. The one day last week. Holy cow, that's pretty good, right? And the step up here, I added solar panels to the system. So we increased the capacity to generate on August of 2020. So I'd say, average, peak highest here might be 7.5. And then over here in the summertime, you could be getting as high as 20. So it's like a 33 to 50% difference in the wintertime around here. But it doesn't matter to me because I don't care about the change. We only care about the number at the end of the year. So we're hooked up to the grid. We're drawing power off the grid. And whenever we're over generating, we sell out to the grid. And then, like right now, it's dark outside because it's 6 o'clock at night. I'm buying power from the grid and using the credits that I obtain by selling to the grid during the day. But ultimately, I only care about this number here, 12 megawatt hours of electricity. And it doesn't matter because the power grid is our energy storage. And between meeting other people's demand and relying upon modulation of other power stations that are out on the system and the low amount of renewable energy that we have on the system around here, it's not a big deal. I don't need batteries, don't need energy storage, and it works great, even in the wintertime. So that's zoomed in a little bit. It's hard to run with this thing, but that's the story. So solar works lovely in the wintertime, especially when it's right after it snows and it's sunny and it's cold, because the panels are more efficient when it's cold and the snow reflects light off the ground and diffuses it into the atmosphere, which can increase your irradiance that's hitting your panels. So it's all around, it's a great thing. And we can deal very easily with the changes between summer and winter, especially with low penetrations of solar on the system, which is what we have right now. And that's it. So hopefully it's informative. And I wasn't too hard on those who are critical of solar.